morning, and thanks for being here as we introduce the two newest Chicago Bulls, Wendell Carter Jr. and Chandler Hutchison. Also want to recognize both families that are here today. It's great to see the parents that we know you're proud today. We're equally as proud to have these two young men as part of the Bulls organization. We talk about it all the time, that we really do value high character people and players. And I mentioned Thursday night that in all the background work we did over a long period of time, these two young men fit the bill. And so we are tremendously excited as we continue this direction that we've chosen to add two more terrific young players to our roster. With that said, we also understand that we're building, and that doesn't mean that things are going to happen overnight. And all we want both Wendell and Chandler to do is come to work every day. Everything is here for them to acclimate to the organization and to their teammates. And as long as they work, good things will happen for them. We believe that wholeheartedly. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Guard. I know Guard spoke a little bit about these two young men the other night, but I'd like him to say a few words as well.
Well, I'll just reiterate what John said. We're thrilled to have these two young men become Chicago Bulls. And I want to also welcome their families to Chicago. And so we talked the other night. I think we got two guys, like John said, from a makeup and character standpoint, they really fit what we're trying to build here. I think they fit the young players, the young core we already have in place. We talked the other night about the versatility that we think both these guys can bring to our team. We got two players we were very high on in the way the board fell. We got two players that fit in positions of need as far as moving forward and looking at the big picture. So both of you, Wendell and Chandler, welcome to Chicago, and we're excited to have you as Bulls.
Fred, why don't you make a few comments?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm very excited as well about these two young men. And, I think, Gar talked about the versatility that both players will bring to our roster. In my opinion, you've got a modern-day big with Wendell, with a guy that's very skilled. I've talked a lot to Coach K in the last week and just about the different ways that he utilized Wendell's skill set by getting him out on the floor. I thought he did a great job. They ran a lot of high-low with he and Bagley, with Wendell out on the floor, being able to make the high-low pass. The other thing that I was very impressed with as the year went on was his ability to stretch the floor with his three-point shot. He shot over 41% from the three-point line. I think he's a guy that can play make, that can put the ball on the floor. And then I think a big area where he'll help us defensively is at the rim. He's an excellent rim protector. In watching film on Wendell, the more we watched, just his ability to go up and the art of verticality where he goes up. He blocks a lot of shots with two hands and as important, keeps it in play. So you have a very versatile big that I think will fit very well with our other young bigs on our roster. As far as Chandler, the thing that impressed me most about his game was his ability to get the ball off the defensive glass and push it down the floor and facilitate offense. I think he'll fit well with the way we want to play, with pace and with speed, getting our guys out running the wings. And he had more coast-to-coast plays than I think anybody in this draft. Averaged almost 8 rebounds and almost 4 assists per game. On top of that, he scored 20 points. And, again, a guy that you watch his game over the 4 years he was at Boise, how it evolved and how he continued to improve. And you look at his three-point shot from his freshman year to his senior year and how his numbers went up every season. So two very versatile players that I'm really excited about adding to our team.
Yes, now it's your chance to speak to Wendell and Chandler.
Hey, Chandler, right here. Coach Rose spoke glowingly of you after you were drafted. What did he mean to you, and how did he help your improvement?
I mean, really being a four-year player, just the growth, really just having that opportunity that he gave me, just to trust me early on, giving me more of a leash than really early players do, and when having that that 4-year goal in mind of a player that's probably going to play for 4 years. He just continued to stick with me and help me grow from trusting me on the court, but also, trusting me to he came to me to really talk to these younger guys on how it means to play at a bigger on the floor with some more competition. As we continue to play against some better competition, some of these guys to look up to me, he gave me that responsibility, and just with me growing too, he helped me. He gave me that responsibility to help some of the younger guys grow as well.
Chandler, Fred just talked about some of the strengths he envisions utilizing in the offense. What strengths do you feel you can bring to this franchise? And also, how aware were you of the team's longstanding interest in you?
Well, just like you mentioned, versatility. I think I don't do just one thing where you can just plug me in that spot and know that I'm going to be great at that one thing. I think I have a lot of different weapons, and I'm useful in a lot of different situations. And I see that as being really valuable in the NBA, especially now, being able to play in different positions, handle the ball, rebound, defend as well, with my size, and also play make. And, I knew that they were watching me early on from my, really from my sophomore year on, and knew that they were a team that was showing continued interest, and along with a lot of teams. But, it's good to know that you end up in a place where a team really wants you, and that among everything else was something that I feel comfortable in being here.
For Mr. Hutchison, there you go. I noticed, reading about your background, you weren't that highly regarded coming out of high school. I think you're 80th ranked or something. We don't see a lot of 80th ranked here. What were your aspirations getting into college as far as your career?
Just to be a really good college player first, before anything else. I know that really the stuff in high school, I didn't think too much of it, because once you turn that page, just like from college to the NBA, really you're given that clean slate and everyone's on a level playing field. So it wasn't necessarily to regard as to maybe what I did in high school, but to just continue to work and work on getting better every year. And I pride myself in working hard and continuing to improve. So it was just to be a really good college player at first, and I was given that opportunity to do that and excel at Boise State.
Hey guys, right here. This is for both of you. Obviously, Gar and John and Fred have talked a lot about your strengths and weaknesses, but this is a team that needs guys that can make an immediate impact. How do you feel you both can do that right away?
Go ahead, Wendell.
I'm a very hard worker. I'm a winner also. I come in and do whatever I have to do to help the team win. So I think that'll be an immediate impact.
Yeah, I mean, just like he was saying, both of us extremely hard workers that didn't really matter. The guys that maybe we're being compared to or guys that were being looked on over, we just kind of put our head down and work. And I feel like that's valuable at every level. Obviously, we both understand being a rookie, there's going to be a lot of work that we're going to have to do. And first, I'm just, willing to do whatever it takes to see the floor and continue to show what I can do.
Hey guys, back here. For both of you, what are your thoughts on being a part of a rebuild and being a part of a core that's currently intact? Laurie, I know you mentioned him, Wendell, and Chris Dunn, and Zach LaVine as well.
It's exciting. Like you said, it's a part of the rebuilding process, and just to be a part of it, we want to come in and win games. That's what we want to help this organization do, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. So just to come into a system and
team that's still building. You look at all the best teams in the league over the years, they all have a part of a time where they were rebuilding with a young core. And so to be in there with the foundation, I think is pretty special.
Fred, how do you balance the dual goals of player development and also trying to win games, making sure they get experience without entitlement minutes?
Well, yeah, Casey, it's the thing I'm excited about with training camp is it's going to be open competition, and it should make for a very competitive training camp. And I'm excited about next week when we come in for our mini camp before we head to Vegas for the summer league, and really getting a look in the 3 days that we'll have. Also having a couple of our other players practice and a couple of our other players play out in Vegas. to see, exactly what we have. But, the thing that I know that these two players will do is come in and work extremely hard. And they're not going to back down from anything, from any type of challenge. So, to be able to have this, and they're going to stick around and work out the next couple days as well before they go home and get things in order before we go to Vegas. But, Casey, development is as important as anything when you have a young team. And you look at last year, we had goals of coming out and competing and playing at a high level every time we stepped on the floor, whether it was a practice or a game or a shoot around, and I think we accomplished that. I thought our guys all the way through, from the different combinations that we had on the floor, went out and competed at a high level. And the other thing was the development, and our guys bought into getting better in coming in early and staying late. And you look at a lot of our players last year had career-type years. Now, our job for myself and for my staff is to get these players better. And, there's a lot of things that you see when you watch film, and then when you get them on draft night, there's a lot of things that you think that you can help with and try to clean up right away. And that's what we're going to try to do starting tomorrow with these guys. I was really impressed. Wendell sent me a text yesterday and said, "Coach, when I land, I'd love to come over to the gym and get some shots up." And he came over, and we got one of our staff members in here working with Wendell and a shot. So these guys are willing to work. I know that for a fact. And talking to their coaches from where they've been, part of great programs. And, I know that work ethic will carry over.
This question's for Wendell, back to your left. You were part of a starting lineup at Duke with 5 players that all had aspirations of being first-round draft picks. How did that impact your role in the offense at Duke, and how much untapped potential as an offensive player do you think you have at the pro level?
Like you said, I was around a lot of great players, a lot of offensive-minded players who are great scorers. And I wouldn't say that I wasn't able to show everything that I'm able to do. It was just that I was willing to share the pot. I mean, I'm not a selfish player by any means, and I want to win. And for me to play with so many great players at Duke, it showed that I'm able to play alongside, some of the greatest players in college basketball and still be able to hold my own, which I thought spoke volume. I didn't go out and have 30 or 40-point games, but I did all the things that were necessary for us to win. So I thought that was very important.
Also, Wendell, we've spoken with you several times now here in Chicago. It's been very nice. You were at the Combine, and the Bulls brought you in. And the one thing that you've continued to say is you'll do anything necessary to help the team win. I'm fairly sure every draft choice says that thing. What tangible thing, one main thing you feel that you do that helps the team win?
If I had to say one thing, I think I'm an excellent rebounder. I have a really good net for the ball, and yeah, I think that's about it.
You answered it.
Wendell and Chandler, we're familiar with your game. We've talked about your game, but how familiar are you with Fred Hoiberg's offensive system and defensive system?
I mean, I'm just a basketball junkie, really. So I've watched teams, all teams play, and definitely kept an eye on, watching the Bulls play just whenever they're on. But really, for me, I'm so familiar with the way college basketball is played and the things we do that's necessary for us to win and the positions that I'm in, that it's really hard to kind of put myself in that position. But, one of the advantages of being here early and me and Wendell both to, work out tomorrow and kind of get used to those things so we can get a jump on it as soon as possible.
Yeah, he answered it. I was going to basically say the same thing.
Obviously, this is for both of you. Obviously, this is a moment you guys have dreamt of, and this is a franchise that has championship history. What does it mean that they believe you guys can help restore that here in Chicago?
It means a lot. It's an honor just to be here. To the first game we played in the United Center, some of the greatest players who ever played the game played in the same spot. So it's just an honor just to have the Bulls uniform on, and we coming to win. That's about it.
Yeah, basically what he was saying. really, just being drafted to begin with is a blessing and an honor. But when you get drafted to an organization, for one, that has a vision for you as a young player right away, but also has a history of an organization that is a winning organization, and people that are connected to the program that have been there when they've won and know how it goes down and really what needs to take place to be successful. That's just adds to it. So I'm extremely blessed to be in this position, and really just can't wait to get started.
Garden Pax, when Bagley reclassified, it obviously changed his role on the floor from a night-to-night basis. What did you guys see from a scouting standpoint as far as his development that maybe that might have helped him as opposed to hurt him?
Go ahead, Gar.
Well, we had seen Wendell play, even in high school. We had seen film, and then we saw him at some of the all-star events after the season, so we kind of had a baseline to who he was as a player. And the other thing, obviously we saw him playing a lot of games, but we saw him in a lot of practice situations too. So when you see him in a practice situation, sometimes you can see parts of his game, like he was saying, maybe he didn't showcase each and every night with Duke. But, like we talked about the other night, just the versatility. I think in today's game, it's very rare you get a 19-year-old post who's got a developing post game, and he does, right and left hand around the rim, drop steps, using his body to create separation, some of those things. And then, like Fred said, to also be able to step out on the floor, and though it was a small sample size, he shot 41% from three. And I think, as he mentioned, some of the high-low feeds, he was a high assist guy for a center. So he could pass it, he could handle it, he could rebound it, was a very good defender, blocked shots, and Fred mentioned the verticality, which was important. And the other thing, when we look at the big picture, and I think I mentioned this the other night, is that then we compare what we heard, because we've done a lot of background, and what we've seen as far as scouting him in a number of different situations, and we compare him to the analytics. And analytically, with our draft model, he was one of the top players in this year's draft, and then we've got a database of 15 years that we've done analytical studies on draft prospects, and he was really one of the top players when you go back over the 15-year period. So I think a combination of all those things on top of his makeup and character is why we were so high on him and so excited when he was there on draft night.
And the thing I'll add is that both Wendell and Chandler have great opportunities to grow. I mean, they have a lot of potential, and they're both young men. They're going to grow as players. And as we evaluate our roster, oftentimes you look at who complements who. And in Wendell's case, we've got a young player in Lauri Markkanen that we think is going to get better and better. His skill set is unique. We think Wendell's at the 5 position is going to be unique as well. And I think we do think that they're going to complement each other well. As far as Chandler goes, we look at our roster and we know the game. We talk about all the time having versatile players, ability to handle, pass, and shoot, especially when you have a player at his size and length. And we were void of that. And as time goes on, we want to keep adding to that. But they both have huge potential. And you draft young players; they're not finished products by any means, and that's why, really they've had this great experience through the draft, and it's got to be a wonderful thing for young people to go through. But they come in today, and once this ends, this is their job now, and it's the real work begins. But we feel they have, again, potential that will help us become a better basketball team, and certainly we feel that they fit players like Chris Dunn and Zach LaVine and Lauri Markkanen and Denzel Valentine, Bobby Portis, that's a part of this process as well.
For Fred, how do these two change stylistically what you could do on the basketball floor? I know it's a process with rookies, but how could what we see actually look different?
Well, I think especially as you watch the playoffs this year, the teams that have multiple handlers and facilitators are the teams that are hardest to guard. And especially when you look in Chandler's case, his ability to push the ball down the floor and you get your point guard out running one wing and your shooting guard in another, that certainly helps you. I think with the versatility in the defensive end to guard multiple positions, he's got great length, he's got great feet, He's got good anticipation, and a lot of that comes from playing in a system in college for a coach that I'm as high on as anybody. I love what Leon Rice, not Rose, Darnell does, and he just he does so many things for you as a basketball player in the court. And then again, you look at Wendell. He's got a 7'4" wingspan. He's 19 years old, and he's skilled. And it's a great place to start with two players that just add to the young players in your roster. And I think John and Gar both mentioned this, how well they fit, from a position of need that we needed to add to our team to continue to help with the rebuild. So and on top of that, you can see it here, just how wonderful kids they are, great families, and getting a chance to meet them this morning. I think it's just a perfect fit in both their cases.
Wendell, going back to the combine and this well-traveled theme now of sacrificing for good players around you, it was very apparent the first time we talked to you that you were very excited to get to this level. What specifically about the NBA game do you think will showcase your skills?
Just simply that it's a lot more room on the court. I think, it's a lot of one-on-one play in the NBA, so that's something I am looking forward to. Yeah, that's it. I can showcase my offensive abilities. Yeah, both. Yeah.
For Chandler, I just wanted to follow up on what I asked you before a little bit. You may be, I don't know, factually, Gar has that in the analytics, I'm sure, but factually, you might be the most unlikely person to have been here given in the first round, given where you came from. And I know everyone talks about hard work. What is it, did you ever imagine that in high school you could be an NBA player? And is there any one thing that you feel got you, other than the hard work, enabled you to reach this level? Boise State, I don't think's had a first-round pick ever. Is that right?
Yeah, first-round pick in school history. But I think exactly what you mentioned with having it being so unlikely, and having people that I've played with when I was younger and even in college, ranked ahead of me, me being looked past multiple times. I think that's the one thing that got me here. I just think there's something in my DNA that whenever something like that comes up, I just carry that chip on my shoulder, and it motivates me to want to make it that much more. And it doesn't matter ranking-wise. I just always wanted to be the hardest worker no matter what gym I was in, and I just carried myself as if I was the best player. And I think that paid off every year and at every level. I just continued to believe in myself, and also just having my family believe that as well. And the coaches that I've been placed with to be able to play for, they also have that belief. And when you have all of that, it's a pretty good formula.
I got a question for Wendell and Gar. Wendell, we keep going back to the combine because it was evident for us, your team first mentality going back to the combine. But where does your selflessness come from? We make a lot about it. You talk a lot about it, but where does that come from? And then for Gar, you mentioned the analytics. Could you just give us specific examples, what numbers you're speaking of when you talk about Wendell and how high he rated on the analytics?
Well, I don't know. I think it's something I was born with. Growing up, even from little things like this, I was the only child, so I was spoiled. So I would share a lot of my stuff with, like, my cousins and things like that. So, and also growing up, I was a winner. I won in everything that, even the littlest things like Monopoly or something, I always found a way to win. And sometimes I just had to sacrifice things. And it just kind of translated to the basketball court. I sacrifice shots, I sacrifice minutes. I mean, as long as we're winning, that's all I really care about.
I think as far as the question you asked, in general, he was very productive in what he did, and he did a lot of things, and he was very efficient in what he did. From true shooting percentage, and like I said, defensive rebounding, offensive rebounding, assists for a big man, just across the board and everything we measure, he was extremely efficient in what he did. And especially, when you put those things out, whether it's per 36 or per 40, it kind of jumped out that he had a really well-rounded game for such a young big.
Good. Yeah, we're gonna step up front and we're gonna take a picture with your jersey, and then we're gonna get the, you guys. Good job.